Okay, this is example 4. In example 4, we're going to talk about key features. Okay, key features, for example, being the y-intercept. Well, from what we've already studied, we know the number in front is the y-intercept. So it's asking what is the value of the y-intercept. We don't even have to graph this. It's right there, 29. There's the answer to bubble in or type in, however you're doing it on the STAR test. Now, if I needed to, home, new document, save changes, no. I could have typed or add the graph, type this in, 29, open parenthesis, 5.2, caret, and then put my X up there, enter. And then usually when I hit menu, trace, and graph trace, it usually goes to 0 and 29. If not, you can just hit 0, enter. And there's your y-intercept. When you hit menu trace, graph trace, most of the time, it goes right to your y-intercept. Now, I'm going to go back here, window zoom, and I'm going to zoom back to standard because we're going to talk about a couple other things. The next thing we're going to talk about is, notice this line is right here on the x-axis. Okay, it's right on the x-axis. Let me draw that here. Okay, so here's the graph of the line. It's really close to the x-axis. But there's this phenomenon. It's never actually touching the x-axis. It's getting closer and closer and closer, but it's never going to touch. It's going to go all the way to infinity. So the x-axis is a special line called an asymptote. Okay, and on all the ones we're going to study in Algebra 1, the asymptote is always the equation y equals 0. Okay, that is the x-axis. If I type in tab and hit 0, that's like f of x, that's like y equals 0. It's going to graph the x-axis. And that is the asymptote. So anytime it's asking for asymptote, if it does not say y equals 0, then that is not a true answer. It's got to say y equals 0. Okay, next example. Which of the dashed lines is an asymptote for the graph? Again, right here. Okay. All of the examples that you're going to do, it's always horizontal. Now, when you get to the next math, we may shift it up and down, and that line may move. But for right now, the asymptote is y equals 0 every time. Okay, next. Which statement about this graph is true? Okay, so first off, we just look at that 8. We know this is our initial value or our y-intercept. Okay, this is our percentage rate. Okay, and this is less than 1, so this is 1. Well, I'm not going to go into that depth, that much detail. But this is our percentage rate. It's less than 1. We'll say it's decreasing. Okay, so we already know that. So the coordinates of the x-intercept. There's no x-intercept. That's the asymptote. There's no x-intercept. So when it says x-intercept for a exponential, it's not. It's never. The coordinates of the y-intercept are 0 and 8. Y-intercept, 0, 8. Yeah, that checks out. The equation of the asymptote is x equals 0. No, it's always y equals 0. That's not true. The graph includes the point 2, 1. So you might have to go to the graph on this. New document, save changes, no. Add the graph, 8, open parenthesis, 0.25, caret x, enter. And then menu, trace, graph trace. There's my y-intercept. Again, if you weren't sure, it's right there. And then this point is 2. Input 2, does it output 1? No, it outputs 0.5. That's not the right answer, so G is the correct answer. Now, this could say false too, so be careful with that. It could say true, it could say false. So that's why you need to do true or false on all of them, so it makes sense which one is the answer. Okay, here's one for you to try on your own. Okay, so right now I'm looking in front of the parenthesis. This is my y-intercept. Okay, this value inside the parenthesis, it's a fraction, but if I come over here and I do 5, control divide, 5/3, and I turn that into a decimal, this is really bigger than 1. It's 1.66. So this is increasing. Okay, so don't get caught just because it's a fraction here saying it's decreasing. If the top number is bigger than the bottom number, the numerator is bigger than the denominator, that's increasing because that's a number greater than 1. The graph has a vertical asymptote. Vertical is up and down. We said the asymptote is going this way, y equals 0, so that's false. The graph crosses the y-axis at 0 and 1/4. The y-axis is the y-intercept. That's true. Okay, the graph has an asymptote at y equals 5/3. No, y equals 0 every time. That's false. The graph decreases from left to right. No, it's increasing because the top number is bigger than the bottom number. It's increasing, not decreasing. So therefore the answer should have been B.